Hi everyone, Nubkeks here, and it's a rainy Saturday morning in Ireland, but you're very welcome to join me for today's video, where I'm going to walk you through, do a full walkthrough of preparing healing cooldowns for a Mythic boss in World of Warcraft raiding. In this case, we're going to be looking at Soulrender Dormazain, which is probably the 5th boss that you're going to do on Mythic difficulty in the Sanctum of Domination raid. So yeah, this is going to be the initial plan, by the way. That's also worth pointing out. I just thought I'd show you for fun. These are my plans, like for the current boss we're on, Remnant of Ner'zhul. There's a whole bunch of changes. You can see one of the biggest changes. And this is our current plan right here. You could take a screenshot if you want. But one of the big changes, like the first plan, we had actually had 2 bombs in between Shadow 1 and 2. And then the second plan, there's only 1 bomb between those. So that really changed things up for us. Some bosses, they're going to change their timings for things based off of how quickly you push those bosses, how quickly you phase them. That's quite common. So your plan will always, you need to change and be adaptable. But it's about applying these principles and about having a good first plan as well. So let's do it. Where do we go? So the first place we're going to start is Warcraft logs. This is this very simple idea of, well, why come up with everything yourself when you've already got a whole bunch of people that have probably killed the boss already, and you can just go in and copy them and copy their best example and copy what worked. So we're going to go into Soulrender Dormazain here. We go into rankings. Now you can, for your individual healers, you could look at this. You go and go into healing. So for me as a disc priest, I could do this and go into disc and really figure out how to min-max my personal thing. And you might want to go into all regions and set it to US and EU so that the ability names are in English and you actually know what's happening. That can be worthwhile. But what we're going to do, oftentimes for planning healing CDs, I'll go into execution. Execution is sort of a ranking based off of basically taking as little damage and having as few deaths as possible, which is essentially your goal on progress. This is the most accurate thing on progress. And then I'm also going to look through here. And for example, this top guild, they're 248 item level average. They kill the boss in 5 minutes 50. That is quite unrealistic compared to, let's say this one is probably much more realistic. 244 with a 7-minute 10 kill timer. That's much more reasonable. So I'm looking for stuff that's actually relevant to our team. Having a team that's much better geared than us and also more skilled and going to kill the boss faster, that's not going to give us a good healing plan because it's not going to be particularly relevant. Now, you can also see as well here the breakdowns for what people are doing. So for example, these guys are actually 4 healing. There's a few 4 heals. It's mostly 5 heal though, so we're going to go in with 5 heal. These are the healers that are most chosen. Obviously, we don't really have the luxury to choose though. So yeah, one thing you can do, which is pretty handy, and I'm going to do that, that's actually copy our exact healing comp. We have a wonky comp. Right now we've got 2 Resto Druids. We have 1 Holy Priest, 1 Disc Priest, 1 Resto Shaman. We also have a Holy Paladin. So we might need to change things, but we could search for this and we can see what comes up. So this is a little bit worrying. Maybe I will change it and bring in the Holy Paladin because literally no one has in the top 50 has killed it with this comp, which is not too surprising. But yeah, that's something to watch out for. So we can make it more reasonable, I suppose. So stick with the 2 priests, the Resto Shaman. They're definitely in. 1 Resto Druid. And yeah, that's fine. Let's do it like that. So obviously 2 Resto Druids. They're super unpopular. Or like Mistweaver is as well. So that's, yeah, you're not going to see too many of those. And here we go. We've got a whole bunch of examples here. Perfect. Okay, so these top guys, again, 247, they killed at 620. Let's take these as an example. Around 7 minutes seems to be roughly average. So 7 to 720, fairly consistent. About 7 minutes 10 is our roughly expected kill time, presuming we do well in the fight. So let's open up these guys. Here we go. Okay, and we're into this log of who's this? Epos on Blackhand EU. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for donating your log from August 8th. Woo! Okay, so damage done, irrelevant, don't give a shit, don't care about that. Damage taken, this is the first tab we're going to go to, okay? And we can again filter this damage taken from ability as well. And then we can go down here, we can see a breakdown. So this is a great example. Look at these, we've got very obvious major spikes. 1 spike around 1 minute, 1 around like 340, 430, 530, 630, something like that. So are these about a minute? These are a little under a minute spaced out. Okay, cool. But yeah, there you go. So we got clear spikes. Where are these coming from? You can look at these abilities, and this is hilarious. There's almost nothing on this fight. So like boss melee attacks, for example. So the main things, we've got echoing screams, chambers filled with screams of souls, doing damage every 2 seconds. So that is obviously just consistent raid damage. There's not even, if we remove the total, it's just consistent. So that's 46% of the damage. That's just going to need steady healing throughout. That's pretty common. Unleash Tyranny. This is the spiky stuff. Snapping a chain does a bunch of damage. Boom. So there we go. These are the spikes. And if we show the total. Tormented, which is the brands. Okay. Yeah, the brands that are on players that also damage any Mossworn and stuff like that. So Tormented. I don't know if that's spiky. No, not really. So Tormented is... it's fairly there's a fairly big spike there, around 2 minutes. That's interesting. Wonder what that is. Let's actually go into a replay, because this is the one where I actually, from the fight, from doing it on Heroic, and I don't actually know what this is. I'm guessing that it might be that they overlapped somehow. Like they had to stack up too much. Maybe due to doing the dance thingy. Let's see. No, so they just moved over there. I think they were just all stacked for torments. Are they moving between slices? I don't know. Something like that. I don't see any particular reason why it's doing that much damage, so I wouldn't actually worry about it. It's like, whatever. It's a bit of a spike. It's not all that much damage overall, so it's fine considering. But yeah, I mean, it's a minor blip in the thing. But that's something just to be aware of, and that's the sort of thing you would do, is to check that sort of stuff. But these are the main things that we are looking for. Okay, so let's actually go in here and into our spreadsheet, and let's start making this out. So in particular, I'm looking for this Unleash Tyranny. So let's go into Unleash Tyranny, and let's get like more exact timers. So it's really about, let's put in 1 minute. We can be a little bit general. So 1 minute, speed chains 1. Okay, cool. And we want to be pretty precise with this in terms of when they start snapping. 345 is going to be chains 2. And there's 3 hits per thingy. This one is much more spaced out. So this is 425. Is when these are going to be snappable. Now these chains actually spawn in, and you can choose when to snap them. But obviously, as you can see, you want to snap them within a couple of seconds of each other. 535. Okay. And then we're going to want one at 625-ish. So there's 50 seconds. That's actually pretty clear. So there's going to be an intermission between each of those, I assume. It kind of comes in those distinct sets, yeah? Distinct sets. So we got one, and then because of Lust on Pull, I guess we push the boss, before we get the second one. And then there's going to be like an intermission in between these, I suppose, a bit of an intermission. But yeah, we've got these relatively spaced out. Okay, that's cool. So this would be kind of like chains 2, chains 3, chains 4, chains 5. Grand. All right. Wonderful. All right, let's start assigning stuff now. So again, with our healing comp right now, we're not using this. And I'm actually not sure if we're going to have 2 rallies. Let's assume for now that we're only going to have 1 of each. I'm not sure if we're bringing 2 DKs, though actually on this boss, I suspect we probably would. I think warriors are pretty good too, so we'll see. But yeah, let's work from this assumption. Now, where I'd often start, oftentimes, I think it'd be really good to start with your short CDs. This is the place, this is one of the first places I go. I go to 2 places, first of all. Number 1, you have to make sure that for these really dangerous spikes, for the most dangerous part of the fight, start from the most dangerous point. Make sure you have cooldowns assigned to that most dangerous point. Yeah, make sure they're there on the most dangerous point. And then sort of work backwards from there. Fill in your cooldowns then around the lesser important points, but make sure you survive the dangerous bit. Look for the most dangerous parts, which is the chains. The other part is you can also start with some of the shorter cooldowns, and specifically I'm thinking about Wings, Evangelism, and Flourishes as well. So Wings is a 2-minute cooldown, and Evangelism and Flourish are 1.5-minute cooldown. So these are really short CDs, and these are worth getting as many uses out as possible. Whereas, for example, something like a Divine Hymn, which is a 3-minute cooldown, we don't necessarily need to maximize that. but we'd want to use it like in a 7-minute fight. We'd want to use it probably twice. Like we could use it on here, and that's it. So we're going to get like 2 uses. It's going to be a little bit funky actually. But like, for example, we don't have a Holy Paladin, but I would say initially looking at this, I would say it probably makes sense to use it on pull for damage with Lust. You can use Wings for damage. Probably use it around 2 minutes for some of that just incidental damage, and probably delay it for here and here. And you could actually get 4 uses of Wings. So 1 for damage, 1 for just probably incidental healing, just spaced out from other major healing cooldowns, and then have Wings running through chains 3 and chains 5. You can obviously pre-pop it like whatever 10 seconds before if needs be to top people up, whatever. But you get the idea. Like this is where I might start with Holy Paladin, and that would be the first thing. And then we go, okay, need to make sure we got something else big on chains 2, something big on chains 4. So with a Disc Priest, for example, I come in and go, okay, I'm going to have an Evangelism here. I'll have an Evangelism here as well. And then an Evangelism here. And that could work really well. And there you go. We've actually balanced it out. We've got a major burst CD on everything. And it's a good starting point. So we could do something like that. That can be really worthwhile. What I'm going to do is copy these guys. So we go into healing. We'd even go into cast even more specifically. And here's another fun thing you can do. Again, we could look at these actual players. So obviously the healing is going to correspond. Let me leave damage taken up permanently as well. Hey, healing and damage taken match. Who knew? Shocker. And here we go. One thing to note as well is like, do these guys just suck 'cause they've got gray logs? No, obviously not. They killed the boss. No one died. They could maybe trim out 1 healer, but they're doing this for safety, and that's totally fine. Again, you can only heal damage that's actually taken. Otherwise, you're going to overheal. So you can see there's actually quite a bit of overhealing. Like this Paladin is like 50% overhealing. So this is why you see some logs are for healing the boss. But this just gives you more safety because that's a lot of bursty damage. And this boss is pretty easy, I would think. So there's not really much damage check. So it's not like you're rushing to kill the thing. It's like he's not doing too much. So just doing it slow and steady seems pretty straightforward. Pneumo. And then Poofy Bell. So you can see here very visually, again, you can get the idea for where they're breaking things down, right? So for example, on the first chains, we clearly have, you can actually see the Holy Paladin probably doing Wings on pull. It's doing nearly all of the healing during all of the Lust window. Then the Druid comes in a bit. The first chain snaps, looks like we're going to have Disc and Resto Druid. For then the second one, we're going to have, again, Disc, Resto Druid. They're all doing a little bit. The third one is Holy Priest and Paladin. Fourth one is entirely Disc with a bit of Resto Shaman. And then the final one, looks like I didn't even need to heal it all that much. But yeah, okay. What we can do then is we can go in and we could take even specific cast times. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. We can open up these individual players and pretty much just, this is a good place to start, is to copy. Now, one thing to bear in mind, let's actually start with the Holy Paladin, who's here. He pretty much, okay, this is actually fine. So here's the thing. We're not running our Holy Paladin. We're probably going to have a second Resto Druid instead. So this is what we need to do. You need to sit down and go, okay, if I slot a Resto Druid into this spot, will the plan still work? And in this case, yeah, it will work. Because the Holy Paladin is doing a lot of overhealing. Like Ashen Hallow and Light of Dawn mostly overheal. They're basically just doing one massive burst at like 4 minutes 30. 4 minutes to 4 minutes 30, between 4 and 5 minutes, whatever. So we could just, worst case scenario, stick all the Resto Druid CDs in there and it'll be just fine. You go into their casts, let's just double check. Here's a really good thing. So you can see like where they're using Avenging Wrath. Ashen, I don't think our Holy Paladin, I think our Holy Paladin, because he mains Ret, isn't actually Venthyr. We obviously use Ashen Hallow on pull as well. But yeah, this gives you a good idea for where they are popping stuff. Their major cooldowns, right? Their major cooldowns. Do you have any other major CDs talented into? Not really. So it's just Wings, which is like Wings on pull, 2 minutes, 420, and 620, which is actually what I was saying that you would probably do. That's just like your typical Holy Paladin thing to do. They're quite fun, and it's a good place to start with them, like I was talking about earlier, because you can use Ashen, you can use Wings as just kind of free damage. Right? Even if we look at damage done, for example, if we look at damage done, like during Lust, you see the Holy Paladin, he's actually done a good chunk. He's done about 7,000 DPS during Lust, which is not bad, out damaging all the other healers by quite a significant margin. Though the Resto Druid's doing pretty well as well. They might have they might have convoked on pull for damage, or Heart of the Wild or something. That's very possible. But yeah, anyway, that is something to just be aware of. So we're looking to have our other Resto Druid probably big time fill in around 4 minutes. So we can do something like that. Let's start with the Disc. Where's our Disc friend? Disc Priest friend. Now, Disc Priest, as we saw from the overall healing, I'm sorry that I'm having to re-click some of these things. A little bit unorganized because I'm doing this live. Just train of thought. But as you can see from the spikes of healing, what's the biggest one? Disc. Disc is insane burst healing and then really shit downtime healing. So you can see like, yeah, Disc will have this crazy spike here. Then Disc is also going to be like at the bottom a lot of the other time. That's just the way that Disc works. So where are we with our tabs? Here we go. We don't need to see his smites, obviously. But for Disc, we're looking for their really big cooldowns. So Evangelism is what's really going to fuel their big CDs. That's going to be coupled with Boon of the Ascended twice. Probably with, let me just double check if they're going to couple it with Shadow Fiend as well. So understanding how healers work. This is typically the way that you're going to do it with Disc, is you're ramping up for an Evangelism, which is spreading your Tomans. And this is how they're currently working, is that you're going to have Boon of the Ascended go with one Evangelism, and then your alternate Evangelism is going to go with your Shadow Fiend, right? So we've got, you know, a Boon one, Shadow Fiend one. A Boon one, a Shadow Fiend one. And he has Shadow Fiend on pull because you can. So that's actually good for me to note and for me to do myself. Powered Barrier is also another big one. He's going to put that at 1 and 620, which is actually probably why, or part of why they've actually relatively low healing around 620. Is that they're going to have Barrier doing some of the heavy lifting for sure. And they probably have other defensive CDs, which we'll come to in a bit. Yeah, okay, cool. Right. All right. So these are the major things. And again, this actually seems pretty sensible to me. So going in on Disc, we're going to Evangelism. Obviously, this first one, 340, isn't it? Yeah, Evangelism on that. And then 530. And then again, if we got some other damage event around 7 minutes, or probably just for the fun of it, because the boss is about to die, go into another Evangelism. It's a 1 minute 30 CD. We could even stick one in at like... You could stick one in at 230, but it's playing it... it's actually kind of risky. You could... Nah, never mind. No, this is the way to do it. You could do an alternative, which I don't think we will do, but you could, is do one at 1 minute, 230, then come in at 4 minutes, 20, and then do 6. So you could actually get 4 Evangelisms here. You could do that as well. But the thing is, it's just how valuable would this 2 minute Evangelism be? Let's assume for now that it's not valuable, but let's just note that that is something that we could do. That is something that we could do, especially seeing as we don't have a Holy Paladin, which is going to have a 2 minute cooldown. It might be worthwhile, but let's assume for now that it's not. Let's assume that it's not. So here, that's how we're going to start with that. And that looks pretty good. Okay. So that's them. Let's take, who we start with next? So, yeah, let's go with like the as you can see, they're pretty straightforward. The Resto Shaman, they're pretty steady healing. We can slot some of their CDs in as well. Just be aware of it. So they're going to have like Link, Tide, and that they're their only major CDs, really. Doesn't have Ancestral Protection or anything like that. But yeah, they're just going to like Tide on that one and Tide there. Let's actually slot these in and get a visual for it. So they're going to have a Tide on this, and they're going to have a Tide on this. They're best friends with the Disc Priest. Isn't that nice? Let's actually stick in the barriers and stuff as well. So I'll come back to them. Okay, so that's the Tides. And she's going to link at, or he's going to link at 340. I think I'm only going to do one link in this fight. That's fine. We're going to stick the barrier, what was it, at 1 minute and 6. Yeah. Okay, let's go for the Druid. Resto Druid. So they've got some big things. So like Tree of Life is a big one. Convoke is probably just on CD. Don't need to really worry about that. Flourish is another big one. Okay. And Trank is the other big one. So Trank. Okay. So he's got like, he's actually tranking kind of early. Trank into a Flourish early if people topped up. And then he's going to pop Tree of Life at 1 minute. 4 minutes. So yeah, this makes pretty decent sense. So they're going to like precast quite a bit. So for example, right here, if we look at the timings, yeah. So the chains are actually snapping from like 345 to 355, 425 to 435. With Tree of Life, He's popping it at 4 minutes 12. 4 minutes 12 for Tree of Life. So this is something that's not super clear with how I'm laying this out. But again, he's popping this about 15 seconds early. So he gets 15 seconds of using the tree to top people up. Okay. Tree lasts for 30 seconds. So about, 4 minutes 10, pop it. 4 minutes 10, pop tree. 15 seconds of healing. Chains start to snap. And you still have 15 seconds of tree to get you through the 10 seconds of chain snap, and then even 5 bonus seconds at the end to keep topping people up. So we have that sort of running the whole way through. So that's kind of nice. Oops. And we could pop pre-pop tree for this chains as well. Let's actually spread these out because it's getting kind of cramped. Where is our dude? Yeah, okay. He's actually going to flourish like early. That's fine. And he's going to trank flourish this one. So that's what he's doing. So I'm not even going to bother putting that in. He can just do it himself. But basically, he's going to flourish and trank on chains 2. That's what he's going to do. Cool. So he's going to flourish. He's going to trank and flourish off the chains 2. Trank while the chains are snapping. Flourish near the end of it. And then he's going to have tree running for chains 3. Cool beans. He's got tree running for chains 1. And it's basically just using trank and flourish at like 0.45 just because he can, yeah? So, like, whatever, 0.40, just because he's going to trank flourish. Pretty much. Yeah, cool. And then he probably doesn't get another rotation, does he? He's going to have a flourish. Sorry, 5.4. Of course, flourish will be back. And then trank right at the end. Again, just because, 7 minute. But yeah, 5.40 flourish. Okay. So we're going to flourish here as well. Make sure we get through that. Cool. Okay, so that's Druid 1. Let's take a look at the Holy Priest. What are they doing? So they're doing it looks like they're only going to do one hymn, and this is the salve right here. Simple enough. So going to have a Divine Hymn and Holy Word Salvation, and they're the 2 big CDs. So I think it's possible we could probably get 2 hymns out of this instead of just 1, and salve. In terms of how we're laid out here, yeah. So salve is going to hard carry this one. You could even hymn and salve both. The only issue is that there's nowhere really to use hymn earlier on. So this is where we get a little bit clunky, right? It's going where do we need these CDs? So we clearly, chains 1 is good. Chains 1 is super good. We're going to be mega topped up. So we're going to be full health. And then a boon evangelism with a healing tide, a tree, a barrier. That's already pretty well covered. Chains 2 should be pretty decently covered as well with Spirit Link. I'm actually going to slap a Darkness in probably on that as well. Spirit Link Darkness with Evangelism and a Flourish Tranquility. That should be pretty good. Chains 3 is sketchy, and Chains 5 we still have nothing. So they are the dodgy ones. They're the very dodgy ones. What we could do... thing is, 3... If we put a hymn here at 625, 325 is kind of random. We could do it, but the hymn wouldn't carry over to the chains at all, but it would help people stay somewhat topped. I definitely think salve here in chains 3 is most likely a good idea. You know what? I'm actually going to come back to this. Salve is like a once-off CD, so let's come back to that. Let's put in the other Resto Druid first, because that is I'm just thinking that this is what we're missing, right? Is the did I X them off? No, Karna. Here we go. So what we don't have is someone that can replicate the healing of this Holy Paladin. So they're the ones that are hard carrying this one, which is what we're missing, which is chains 3. So let's put in the other Druid here. So they will flourish and trank. They'll trank and flourish during it. And then they should pre-pop tree as well. So they should basically just run everything there. And yeah, it's not going to be back for much else, but that's okay. They can also then flourish this one. Perfect. So we'll have a flourish over there as well. Trank obviously is 3 minutes, so it won't be back either side. They could do it early, but again, there's not much point. But they could. And their tree, there's not a whole ton of point either. They should just honestly put tree there as well. And that's probably good. Yeah, so 4th thing, they could honestly, they should look to do, I'm not even going to put it in because it's not important. I think this is where we leave it up to the healers to actually do their thing. In fact, I'll say, yeah, no, I do want to leave tree there. Yeah, I do want to leave tree there. That's going to be fine. They can pop kind of a late tree. That's good. But yeah, the idea here is that, okay, I want you to flourish chains 3 and I want you to flourish chains 5. You can use other flourishes earlier on if you want to, but it's not covering any major damage events. So let's for now leave it up to the healer. Keep it relatively simple. Perfect. Okay, good. Let's put in AMZs. So AMZ, I definitely want one here. And I want one here as well. So I'm going to have AMZ here, here, and here. And let's actually move that over. So we'll get 3 AMZs, chains 1, 3, and 5. That will do the job pretty well. If we had another AMZ, we'd alternate them. We'd hit double stack it on one, then put the other, like, let's say hypothetically. Let's put in hypotheticals here, and we'll move this over. Okay, so just thinking about this. So I'd have an AMZ on this first chains, AMZ on chains 2. So we got AMZs sort of spaced around, and then one here. We are lacking stuff on chains 4. Quite a bit, so this is actually somewhat spicy, so I'm definitely thinking I want to rally here on chains 4. It does mean that the rally is not super relevant anywhere else, but I think it's worth it just to make sure that we have something, because we don't have anything else, which could be a problem. That could be a problem. So this is the one I'm looking at right now. Okay, yeah, that's gonna be fine. Okay, we got Lincoln, we got that stuff. Cool. So what else do we need? I would at this point, I would say we should actually salve here. And you could potentially salve earlier in the fight, though what's it actually going to do? I think, though, a salve at this point probably makes most likely the most sense. That probably makes the most sense. Him is also a bit awkward. This is where it becomes a little bit clunky because we've got so many CDs. This one is a lot from just the one healer. So honestly, I'd say a him around here. You know what? Even if I move that stuff over, you could salve this because I'm a bit worried about that. And certainly for progress, I think that's worthwhile. And I'd actually him at this point here. I'm actually going to flip them as well because it looks better. So the flourishes are in a line, and like him here. So 320. And then probably like him in here somewhere. And that's fine. So we get 2 hymns off. I think that's actually decent. Or do we want to flip the salves? You know what? Maybe we flip the salves. So yeah, we'll go with their initial plan, which is like him here and salve here. I think that's what they did, right? No, he's hemming at 340 and he's salving 420. I see. You know what? Yeah, let's go with that. Changing my mind all the time. I'm actually gonna put him here, and he can hem at 320. Is that what he's doing? Is he hemming at 325? No, he's doing 345. So he's hemming during the hem, during the chains. Yeah, I think this makes more sense. But yeah, okay. I think that's actually a pretty good place. That leaves us in a pretty decent place. Do we have everything assigned mostly? If I had another rally, again, I'd probably stick the other rally probably here. Probably here. Or sort of play it by ear a little bit. But yeah, so generally the idea here is to make sense. I'm actually going to just get rid of the just because, but he can figure it out himself. But I think this is a good place to start with the healers. So we've got like chains 1. Again, I can move to him as well, and he can figure it out himself. The chains 1, we're going to have an evangelism with Boon. We're going to have healing tide, and we'll have 2 druids with trees. We'll have a barrier in AMZ, so we're actually super good there. For chains 2 and chains 3, these are one of the more difficult sections. We're going to have evangelism with a flourish trank, with darkness link and an AMZ potentially if we bring in a second DK. That's not bad. Chains 3 will have salve with a flourish trank and 2 druids rolling trees through that as well with an AMZ. So we're quite low on damage reduction here, but we're going to have a lot of healing. Chains 4 is definitely a little spooky. Chains 4 is our worst one by far, I would say. We're going to have evangelism. Now, it's going to be a big evangelism. It's going to be a big booned evangelism. So yeah, the disc priest just kind of has to hard carry that one, which hopefully will work with tide and with a flourish as well. If it's going to be awkward, you could easily move a tree into that as well. You could move tree down, and that might actually work. That might actually work pretty well. Do something like this. That might actually be fine. The idea being that, okay, like a salve with a trank during a tree with a flourish is probably enough. and then having a treed flourish might be overkill. Let's actually stick with the old plan, and let's stick with this for now. But this is where if there's overhealing here, you could easily, and we die over here, you could easily move tree down. But let's say we've got a rally, we're gonna have healing tide and disc priest blasting. It's probably okay. And then a second death knight makes it safer as well with AMZ. And then we'll have like him with flourish. We'll have barrier and AMZ there, so that one shouldn't be too bad. And hey, even if people die horribly, they die horrible deaths. The boss is probably so close to dead that you might get away with it. You actually might get away with it with a few people dying and be able to tunnel them down. And that should actually work, I think, pretty well. And you could easily have like 3-minute personals on chains 2 and chains 5, and that could easily work too. So actually, chains 2, chains 5, that doesn't work because they're more than 3 minutes apart. Bit awkward that, huh? Bit awkward. Certainly as well, if this one goes a little bit poorly, we would have Link and Darkness like coming back. Like Link and Darkness would be back and Trank would be back here, sort of stabilize after the fact if needed. You know, like these things are going to come back right here, so that's not too shabby. But yeah, there you go, guys. There you go. This is how I would do it. So this is going to be our initial plan. I think it looks reasonably solid. We've got a minimum of 2 throughput CDs for every chain snap. We've got a minimum of 1, preferably 2 external CDs for every one. Definitely a bit of an awkward fight in the sense that, yeah, like a 3-minute cooldown used on chains 2 is literally not going to be back for chains 4 or 5. So the 3-minute CDs are really struggling here, unfortunately. It's just sort of weird timings, but I think the boss looks to me to be relatively easy. So hopefully it works out okay. If we do up a second version really fast as well, just for funsies here. So let's say this is the if we remove 1 Resto Druid and we stick in, if we stick in a Paladin, so it'd be like here, 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 and here. And then we'd probably like Salve and probably him. And this actually still looks pretty solid. Then we could take Aura. And we could honestly probably just like Aura the 2 of those, and that would probably work okay. I think that still looks pretty good. Like tree over here, like that's probably what it would look like with this, which is mostly what those guys did. Where, double check, where did he use Aura? Used Aura Mastery. Is it 425? So he used it on this one. Okay, so you could easily put Aura Mastery. Leave the tree there. Aura Mastery there. Yeah, that could be okay. And you could even, yeah. That might work. Again, this one does still become a little bit sketchy with that. But yeah. There you go. Anyway, that's sort of some rough ideas, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll try to answer them. But yeah, this is my sort of general approach. And I'll probably do a video breaking down how our Remnant stuff went and what I would change. And when we hopefully kill it this week. And hopefully Soulrender will die pretty quick as well. And I'll do a video on Soulrender and break down how it actually was. Actually going in and doing the fight and seeing how the stuff actually works. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye-bye.